Welcome to State and Fig, located in historic La Arcada Plaza in downtown Santa Barbara.
Our menu focuses on products that are raised in the state of California, inspired by the flavors of the Riviera.
And we are proud to be sponsoring this program.
Hello, I'm Twyla Kim. I've been an artist and hairstylist in Santa Barbara for 20 years. I personalize color, design, and precision haircuts for each individual at Sequel Salon in Montecito. I'm happy to be sponsoring Get Conscious Now.
I'm attorney Gregory Lowe. I will prepare your trust, bankruptcy, divorce, conservatorship, probate, evictions. All of this I can do at an affordable price and with caring. Thank you very much.
When I was growing up as a kid, I used to go around with him and watch him.
My mother and I both worked at Lowry Field.
To keep on doing this together.
Hello, and Happy New Year. I'm Patricia DiOrio, and this is Get Conscious Now, the television show that informs, inspires, and reminds us to be aware and therefore conscious that we are energy beings in physical form, spiritual beings having a human experience. This show also emphasizes this innate and measurable power that we have to create our reality. In fact, quantum physics tells us that we're creating it all the time, whether we know it or not, or like it or not. So it's important for us to be present to our thinking. And this show is about helping us shift the paradigm, our personal paradigm, from being victims of our thinking to being deliberate creators of our reality. So, I love doing this show. It's one of my favorite things to do in life. And one of the reasons why I enjoy it so much is that I have the opportunity to co-host it with a great guy who drives all the way down from Napa to play with us. He is Stu Zimmerman, bright, witty, funny, and always something to say about consciousness. And I'm going to welcome you, Stu. And what do you have to say to our guests, to our audience tonight? I'm a little nervous here.
Absolutely, Patricia Bell, yeah. I love you. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. It is absolutely a great, great pleasure to, like you, to be in this conversation about consciousness. And as we enter a new season, just give you a little sense of how my brain kind of works. All of a sudden, I hear the word season and stream of consciousness. I started reminding myself of this song from the 60s that was sung by a group that seems to be ever present in my mind with like Walking Dead and stuff like that that's so popular. The Zombies. And there's a song called Time of the Season. And it's a time of the season for loving. And that's what I feel this program ultimately is about. We can talk about it as consciousness, but we can also talk about it in terms of bringing awareness simply to how we can love life and have our lives be a season for loving life, loving what we do, loving who we're with, and even loving what we see when we look in the mirror. How about that?
Imagine that.
Imagine that. So thank you so much for joining us. And by the way, if you missed any part of the first season, perish the thought. But if you did, perhaps, you may want to come to YouTube and just search for Get Conscious Now. And our entire first season is on YouTube for your viewing pleasure. And Patricia, why don't you introduce our incredible guest to start off our next season?
I will. So, Get Conscious Now is about what it means to bring consciousness into areas of life that we wouldn't normally associate with spirituality. We've done shows on the media and education and corporations. And tonight's show, the topic is money, conscious money. And you know, money, I think money gets a bad rap. Money is just energy. There's nothing good or bad about money. It's how we think about money, how it shows up in our lives. So if we're always stressed out and worried and feeling that we don't have enough, then the universe is going to provide us with that opportunity. However, if we have positive thoughts and we merge our understanding of spirituality with our money, with our financial life, you know, then we're going to have a life that's going to be balanced in regard to our prosperity and our abundance. And we couldn't have a better guest than our guest in today's show. This beautiful woman who is sitting here with us, and her name is Natalie Pace, and she is a best-selling author of Amazon bestsellers, 2 books. The first one is You versus Wall Street, and it was formerly known as Put Your Money Where Your Heart Is. And her second book, which has recently come out, is called The ABCs of Money. And I'm going to show them up, put them here so you can see them. Okay. So Natalie is not only a best-selling author, but she is also the founder and the CEO of an organization called Women's Investment Network. And she has a very impressive list of credentials. I'm going to share them with you right now, and please forgive me for reading them, but I don't want to miss anything. First of all, she's a blogger on the Huffington Post, and I was very impressed when I read this because I happen to really like Arianna Huffington's paper. I think she's very progressive in her ideas, and the fact that Natalie has a column there I think is really wonderful. And also, she's been on Good Morning America and Fox News, CNBC, ABC TV, Forbes.com, NPR, and more. She also has a reputation as being the #1 stock picker, and we're going to hear more about that a little bit later. She is also a philanthropist. She has raised tens of millions of dollars for public schools, for financial literacy, for arts, and underserved women and children. In a sentence, if I could best describe her, I would say that she is a spiritually conscious woman who is bringing a very, very important conversation to all of us. In fact, she's really a bridge between the spiritual world and the financial world. And I'm really happy to welcome Natalie Pace to our show.
Thank you, Patricia.
Thank
wow, you get it.
Yay! I get it. Wow, if I didn't
totally get it.
So, Stu, would you like to start us out with a question?
Would love to. Natalie, first of all, thank you so much for being here.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. And clearly you are highly, highly credentialed. But what I didn't learn about you until just recently is what got you here and what got you in the field. And before we get into the nuts and bolts of bringing consciousness to our investing, why don't you share with everybody a little bit about your background, because it's certainly a road less traveled.
Yeah, and I think it's also pertinent to today. So we still have people, you know, we had over 12 million people who lost their homes during the Great Recession. And when I was getting my divorce, I was a mom, a single mom, and I got the home and my husband got the 401k, and I couldn't afford it, honestly. And after a couple of years, the county was happy to remind me of the fact that they would be happy to take that off my hands. And I just had to figure life out in a different way. All the books I was reading on personal finance about cutting out cafe lattes and all this thing, it made me grumpy, but it didn't pay my bills. So I had to shift everything, and I had to increase my income, I had to reduce my expenses, I had to get creative about all that, and I had to leverage money while you sleep. And that brave and frightening choice took me on this beautiful path to your doorstep right now.
Mm. And you even have a childhood, even before the marital issues came up, that also are really, I mean, this is almost like a rags to riches kind of thing.
Share that story with us, because
powerful.
When you shared that with us this past week, I was really moved by, you know, your early beginnings.
You can't make me cry. Oh, no. I hate this part of being alive.
Oh, God. You can cry. I think it's a very human thing to do.
I know, but not at our age, not in this light. Okay, so, you know, I was one of those children where you would say, oh, that poor child. I lost my mom when I was 7. My parents split up when I was 5. She got diagnosed with cancer when I was 5. So, you know, we did not have an easy childhood. And we also lived in one of the poorest neighborhoods in all of the United States, in a copper mining town. In fact, it wasn't even a town, it was owned by the copper mine. So as I was saying, you know, people always say, well, did you have conversations around the dinner table where you, you know, you were empowered to think about money differently? And we didn't have that, no, not at all. But I think what happened was, maybe because of all that turmoil and because I was the 4th child, which meant, you know, I would have been neglected, but I thought I was free. You know, we ate beans a lot, but I loved beans. I didn't notice it. We didn't have money to buy shoes in the summer, but I liked going barefoot. So you see the difference here is all about how you're thinking about it, which is what this whole show is about, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, I was poor, but all the things that would have been defined as being poor was a rich way of living for me. I liked, you know, running around barefoot in the summer. I loved it. I, to this day, love eating beans. In fact, they're my staple food.
I found that a very amazing story about the beans, because usually if it's associated with not having enough. Of course, you just said it wasn't really associated with that.
Never. I love them.
Yeah, that's
And
great.
the thing that really fascinates me about your background and your upbringing is that so many people, you know, say, look, I didn't have the benefit that other people did.
Yeah.
And that is part of a rationale for not living the life that they really want, or keeping themselves in a box. And clearly, you did not.
Well, it's not conscious design, so I can't take credit for it. But you know what? In alignment with what your show is about, it was unconscious design. Because I do have a very strong spiritual practice. In fact, every morning I meditate for 20 minutes and every night. And, you know, I understand that different people have different ways of doing it, but my spiritual practice is always the stars and the galaxies are smarter than me. And here I am in this physical body, and I'm here to do whatever needs to be done. So let me just clear out my silly thoughts and open up to the big thoughts that can be hopefully breathed and you know, work through me.
Great, great. So let's get right into your new book, The ABCs of Money. And I understand it's an Amazon bestseller that spent 42 weeks at the top of Intro to Investing.
Wow, congratulations.
Wow. Yeah,
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
That's really fabulous. Here, I'm just going to hold it up here again so you can maybe get a shot of it. So tell us what, you know, give us the broad brushstrokes about the book. What are the points that you would like to emphasize? Yeah.
Well, it actually is split up into sections that I think are extremely important. It's part of how I transformed out of what I call divorced and desperate into dream come true living. So it's a piece of all of it. You have to learn how to thrive instead of being buried alive in bills. You have to learn, for most people, how to reduce debt. What a lot of people don't realize is that when you focus on reducing debt first, you're in debt consciousness. So the interesting thing about reducing debt is that you actually have to start thriving, you have to start saving and investing, and then let that lead you out of, you know, reducing your debt. In other words, as you gain more assets, your debt goes down faster. As you develop the habit of wealth, as you shift out of I owe, where I got to pay my bills, I got to pay my bills, I got to pay my bills, into a system that is set up to work right, then it's easy. I don't know what to relate it to, but it's almost like, you know, once you get into your routine, then things are much easier, right? And if your routine is pay bills, think about debt, and then whatever's left, maybe think or dream about a vacation or two here or there, maybe far into the future. When you shift that in your way of life and your daily habit and your money house is set up to thrive, and you are not buried alive in bills because you're not overspending on basic needs, everything shifts. And it doesn't matter how much net worth you have or how much income you have. It's almost like I lived a rich life as a very poor copper miner's daughter because I didn't know I was poor.
Right. There's our whole attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, you know, we know you talk about budgeting a bit as part of, because I heard the word thriving in there, which is part of living richly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so why don't you share a little bit, because for many people budgeting is very much about just, you know, barely surviving.
Yes.
You know, trying to stave off the bills that choke us and really choke our moods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like, and by the way, that is what it's called, the Thrive Budget, and that is an entire section of the book, so it really goes into depth. But we do this thing called the billionaire game, and we often play it on the beach at my retreats. And what what the crux of it is this. So I'll say, okay, let's say that Bill Gates is worth $64 billion. And if he makes a 10% return on that, then his annual income is $6.4 billion. The premise of the Thrive budget is 50% to survive, 50% to thrive. Do you think he's spending $3.2 billion on basic needs?
One would hope not.
Right. And you know, a lot of times people would say, oh, well, he must be paying taxes, because I include taxes in basic needs. But millionaires are making, they're not making earned income, they're making the passive income, which is taxed at 15%. That's why people like Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Mitt Romney, they pay less in taxes as a percentage than most of us. So the idea here is that you start learning the rules of the wealthy. You start learning how to get more passive income, which is taxed at a much lower rate. You start learning how not to spend so much on basic needs so that you have a lot more to thrive. And think also of Steve Jobs. Dropped out of school. I'm not recommending this because education is the highest correlating factor with income. But you know, he was basically sleeping on the floor of a dorm room and walking to the Hare Krishna temple when he launched Apple. You know, when you have your basic needs, I'm not saying everybody has to go back to subsistence, but when you're drowning in basic needs, you can't dream. When you cut that down and you get into the flow that is sustainable, you have a lot that can be flowing into your dreams. Education, money while you sleep, fun. And by the way, fun, free endorphins, health, try earning a living if you're not healthy. And fun is, to me, a prescription for good health. So it's part of the, in fact, double your fun budget for the Thrive budget.
Well, it kind of makes you wonder, what good is the money if you're not having fun? I mean, of course, if you have health issues, that's a great use for it. But otherwise, isn't the money really an energy for us to truly love life more?
And charity.
And charity, and to share it with others.
Yeah,
Yes.
when people are in the survival budget, it's really hard for them to move past that. You know, so how does one, if a woman has a family and is a single parent, and she's got to pay the rent and the groceries and all of that, how does she move past that survival budget? How is it about minimizing that budget and making it, you know, a barer budget?
Yeah.
Is that what I'm hearing you say, making it less money for the survival piece?
Well, the good news about this is that I'm the living example that it can work, right? Because I was exactly in that moment. So this isn't a theoretical thing. This is something that I lived my way into the answer and then wrote it into a system. So you have to increase income and you have to decrease expenses. The way I did that is I had my condo and it was a 2-bedroom. So my son and I, right, we're not going to be able to rent out the spare bedroom. So I sold the condo. We got a 4-bedroom that we split with another single mother. It was less money. It was in the neighborhood I needed for him to go to middle school at a public school. I needed to have that be part of my debt reduction plan. And my increasing income plan was money while you sleep. So while you're reducing your money, if you're putting 10% in that tax-protected account, and that earns a 10% gain, you have more money than you make within 7 years, and your money makes more than you do within 25 years. So my money while I sleep was increasing my assets, increasing my ability to pay down debt, and all of those things as well.
Why don't you break that down again? Because you went over that really quickly, and I can hear the note-taking.
Wait.
I can hear the note-taking in the distance.
Yeah.
Okay, so where did the money come from that you invested? From minimizing your expenses?
Sold my house.
You sold your house, so you minimized your expenses, which then gave you the money to invest.
I made a little money on the house.
And you made a little money. Well, that's helpful.
Yes.
That's helpful.
Yes, but even if I hadn't, I also was adding to it from I had an income. And so I was putting 10% religiously into a tax-protected account so that as my money was growing, I didn't pay capital gains. That's a big piece of it.
So you tax-protected, are you talking about like a 401k
or an
IRA rollover of some kind?
Or a health savings account. And again, I know that, look, this is an hour show. A lot of people say, she's just always saying, look at the book, look at the book. But the reason is, in an hour, we can't do a complete money makeover. But what we can is we can tell you all of this is possible. No, it's not going to happen overnight. But guess what? Once this becomes the way you live and you breathe, it is the way millionaires live and breathe. They do pay less taxes. They do not overspend on basic needs. This is the millionaire lifestyle. So yeah, if you aren't doing that, if you're overspending on basic needs, if you're not putting 10% in a tax-protected account, then you do need to get the education first. And this is what I say, it's the ABCs of money we all should have received in high school.
I guess I'm confused because you're saying how millionaires live, they don't overspend on basic needs. Well, they don't have to worry if they're a millionaire on their, I mean, their basic needs are covered. Okay,
it doesn't mean they don't worry.
They're not about survival. Okay, but you have someone
No,
who
but
is,
it's very interesting. I mean, I apologize for cutting you off. I have to tell you, the multimillionaires I know worry more about money than a lot of the people. I mean, I know a lot of people on both ends of the scale for different reasons. They have a lot of people that they're responsible for, even people who work for them, or the the people in their family. They worry a lot. And usually, by the way, they may live in a much more elaborate, expensive lifestyle. What if you're an investment banker in New York and you have to have the home in New Jersey and you have to have the apartment in New York? I mean, it can
so
get
you're
very
saying
expensive.
Is everything is relative.
Yeah, or
Everything is
even if you're an
relative.
actress, in order to be an actress, you got to pay the personal trainer. You always have more expenses than people know going on behind the scenes. The nanny for the kids. As I talk about in a lot of my retreats and in the books as well, you can't be a millionaire all by yourself. You have to have a lot of support to get there, Yeah,
a lot of people aren't aware,
Yeah.
actually, of how much even power that they have. And I want to raise the other book that you have here. Can you see it all clearly here? You versus Wall Street. You versus Wall Street. And in the book, you talk about having, Main Street actually has the power over Wall Street, which is a contrarian view. Not many people are aware of that. Most people think, Wall
It's
Street,
true.
holds the menu and we have to eat off their menu and that's
Yes.
it. It's good. Why don't you share your thoughts on that?
Okay, so Main Street does own Wall Street, and the problem here, and again,
people don't know it.
I don't want this to be overwhelming, but the show is Get Conscious Now, so know about this, and let's start walking towards wisdom here. So the first step towards wisdom is to get yourself out of the shackles of poverty, debt consciousness, buried alive in bills, struggling to survive. The first step is let's get you into the mode where your daily life feels empowered. Once you get there, then you have to start understanding that we own Wall Street. So whether you decide that you want a pension or an annuity or however it is that you're living, even your Social Security, all of this money is invested. And when we do not take ownership of it, that's when Wall Street gets to run amok. It's like, look, if you aren't going to control your teenager, they can take the keys and go wreck your car. Right?
Uh-oh.
So
Turn the cell phone on. I can hear my 16-year-old now screeching tires. Go ahead.
So that's what I'm saying is that Wall Street is using our money. If they're using our money recklessly, it's because we haven't taken the keys back from them.
So that gets into what? Some being more clear on the kind of businesses and or companies that we want to support with our investment dollar?
Dollars, yes. So the ultimate goal here, and I'm so grateful to be on your show, and I'm so glad to be here acknowledging that part of spiritual evolution has to be understanding that money is it's energy, but it is the energy of our world. And as we raise it out of greed, which is where, it was the big wisdom in the Bible, is the love of money is the root of all evil. In other words, greed is the root of all evil. As we become conscious beings who are able to be more prosperous and abundant in our own life, then we can start making sure that our consumer dollars and our investing dollars are co-creating the world we want. So invest in whole foods and not in chemical companies. Invest in electric cars and not in the old industries. You don't see anybody here investing in typewriters, and there will be a day when, gasoline is not going to be the investment of choice either. And it's not all or nothing. It's moving in that direction and understanding that we are co-creating this existence.
Beautiful.
So I just love the fact that spirituality is such an important part of your work.
Yes.
And it wasn't really until I had the opportunity to speak with you on the phone, and I could just feel the energy coming from you, and I knew that you were a very conscious woman. So did this come from your own spiritual understanding, you know, or was it kind of a tandem thing as you became more conscious spiritually that you realized that it was important to be able to align those thought forms to your financial world?
You know, I can't take credit for any of it because I think that this was just meant to be, you know, but I will say your world is much different when you lose your mom at the age of 7. So everything from there is just heightened and you have a greater sense of everything. So, you know, I just always felt like things were more important, I think, than everybody else.
See.
So now you, in addition to doing, you do both asset allocation as well as individual stock picking, or how do you go about start to help to steer people on how they consider their investments?
Yeah, so we're going to speak a little high level here, but I make it easy as a pie chart. So yeah, I do, for most of us, just doing asset allocation and diversification is important. For those of you that don't know what we just said, it's easy as a pie chart, and it basically means that you have to understand, again, just the basics. I mean, in high school, instead of knowing how fast the train gets from Chicago to New York, how about what are the average gains of real estate? What are the average gains of stocks and bonds and gold? And how can we have a sustainable asset allocation strategy and diversification strategy? Again, it's easy as a pie chart. In fact, there's a couple of pie charts in the book. And this is what should be taught in high school, and hopefully Get Conscious Now, that's the next wave too, is that we will have this in high school as well. But we just have to go back and do it. It's financial literacy, it's easy. But yes, I do that. The stock picking I do for myself and for my colleagues, because who doesn't like to own a little of this or that of some company that we really love too.
So how do you go about taking a look at stocks? Because just so you know, I think you may already know, I used to be a money manager myself in a private, in a most recent lifetime in the same body here. And I was a stock picker.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of ways to skin that cat.
Yeah.
And especially when we layer in a sense of consciousness and intentionality in terms of investing in companies that do good in the world or that are aligned with our values.
Yeah.
So how do you go about stock picking, and then maybe you can even give us a little hot tip here for what you're looking at for 2014.
Yeah, 2014.
Okay, so I use a stock report card, a 3-ingredient recipe for cooking up profits, and 4 questions. So the stock report card lines up very important data, including the sales, the income, the debt, and the price-to-earnings ratio. The 4 questions ground it in the real world. So let's say, for instance, you might say, someone say, oh, I love coffee, and I found a new organic coffee maker, and I think they're going to be really amazing. Well, if that is a publicly traded company and you use a stock report card, you line it up with Starbucks and Green Mountain Coffee Roasters, and you look at the debt, and you look at the growth, and you look at all these sorts of things. By asking the 4 questions, you can start identifying why this might be a breakout company. Well, if you think that organic food is a wave of the future and all your friends are drinking it, then you might have a leg up. Let's just put it another way. Like when I pick a company like, oh gosh, Apple, let's say, when everybody was getting iPhones. It wasn't that hard, because if you ever saw someone with the first iPhone, did you see that? I mean, they were like with a proud new baby.
Yes.
And if you walked into an Apple store in the middle of the Great Recession, it was the only thing. It was like a beehive in there, and everything else was completely dead. But you have to line up the numbers too. And you know, usually when you ask the 4 questions and line up the numbers, they tell the same story. So those strategies are outlined more in Put Your Money Where Your Heart Is and You versus Wall Street. The ABCs of money is a holistic money makeover, so that you can integrate these strategies, debt reduction, Thrive budget, stocks, bonds, what's safe, even how to reduce your energy, which is really key. I mean, most of us are paying a lot on our gasoline. That's a big piece of the budget. We're paying a lot on our electric bills. Guess what? Solar panels became hugely, reduced in price. Most people in sunny states should buy that because our electric bills are going up with nuclear power plants being mothballed. That's one of my big alerts, is that nuclear power plants are being mothballed all across America. People don't even know it. So I have this big article on Huffington Post, Is Your Nest Egg Radioactive? This is a fantastic opportunity for conscious people to put their money where their heart is and profit from it.
What do you mean mothballed? They're not going to be
decommissioned.
Oh, they're decommissioned.
And that money gets passed on both to the shareholders as well as to people that are paying the electric bill, and even more to consumers than to shareholders. So it's really important to do this and to know this.
Let's talk about debt reduction and in alignment with credit cards.
That four-letter word.
Credit cards.
Yeah,
yes, credit cards. So personally, I think credit cards are so terribly dangerous. I don't work with credit cards anymore. I just, period. On just one card I have. But what about people that have these huge balances on credit cards where they're just continually paying interest over and over and over again? Yeah. How do they reduce that debt if they opt to have a credit card?
Okay, so again, and this is so counterintuitive, but what you have to realize, a lot of people that are in that role, they say, once I pay off debt, then I'll start saving and investing. But that's like saying, I'm going to be a spiritual person once I drink all this whiskey. Do you know what I'm saying?
That's a good metaphor.
Yeah. Okay. As soon as I finish drinking all this whiskey, I'm going to be a very spiritual person. So same thing with debt, is that you cannot get out of debt while you're still stuck in debt consciousness. So the things that you have to do, the reason you got there is that your budget is out of whack. The other thing too is that you're responsible for your health and also for your future. That money that you put in the tax-protected retirement account that can start compounding gains, that's important to do, because the reason you're in debt also is that the debt has compounded. So again, it's a process of the Thrive budget, so you're no longer, you can't be overspending. Once you do that, you have the biggest piece of the fix going. And part of the Thrive budget is increasing assets, is the first thing you think about, the first thing you do. Put money in your IRA, put money in your 401k. It's yours to keep no matter what. And then after you do those two things, then you look at your debt and you're going to pay off the high interest debt first, and or consolidate your debt, and or figure out if you can take a loan, a low interest loan from yourself to pay it all off, which you can do sometimes from your IRA or your 401k. But do that as the third step. Let's stop overspending. Let's start investing and saving and compounding our gains. And the third step, which doesn't even mean 15 minutes later, it's not like it's going to be, months or years later. It's all at the same time. But it's the third thing we think of, not the first.
Stu mentioned the Thrive budget, and I was hoping that you would share a little bit about what constitutes that Thrive budget.
Sure.
Because it's not your traditional go-to budget that people normally have if they have a budget. It's different. It really creates the structure for your work, doesn't it? Yeah.
So it's 50% to thrive and 50% to survive. And survival for me is electric bill, gasoline, car, transportation, home, and taxes, and health insurance. And what you realize is that as you start thriving, a lot of times what you're doing is you're taking money that you would normally be paying here and you're pushing it into assets. So, for instance, let's say I'm a healthy person and I'm spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars on health insurance. One of my tax-protected accounts can be a health savings account. So I take the money from the health insurance company, I put it in a health savings account, and I start investing it. So the 50% to thrive is this, 10% to my IRAs, my health savings accounts, my 401ks, so pay myself first, 10% to charity, 10% for education, because education is the highest correlating factor with income, and then 20% for fun. And fun can be where you can actually take up those basic needs a little bit. For instance, a lot of people will say, well, I want to have a bigger house, so I want to spend a little bit more on my house. Can I do that? Can I take 10% of my fun and do that? And I say, well, if it can be fun for you. If you're going to complain you don't go on vacations, then you can't say you're having fun, right?
Right.
So it's all, a lot of this is, well, a lot of it is shifting our money, but a lot of it is stop making everybody else rich and start scoring for the home team a little bit here first. Think about that first. So instead of making the insurance company rich, I'm going to create a health savings account. Instead of making the tax man rich, I'm going to put money into a tax protected account and take the tax write-off.
So I'm curious, so you would have a health savings account first before having, let's say, a more conventional health insurance coverage.
Well, with the health savings plan, you have to have a high deductible health care.
Oh, so you have to have that in place as well.
You have to have it, yep.
But you don't have to go with one of the Cadillac policies or anything else that the insurance companies would be selling.
Yeah, and again, if you're not a healthy person, then this is probably not the right answer for you.
Right.
But for most of us that are healthy, and especially healthy people who don't really go to the doctor, that might use holistic medicines and things that are not really covered, this is a much better idea. The money is there if you need it. And every year you take the tax write-off for putting money in there. You can invest it so it can compound gains, all of that.
Mm-hmm. What about people that are on Medicare?
What about the health savings account? Well, you aren't going to need it and you're not paying for it unless you want to take up a Cadillac. And by the way, that's the important thing, is like once you are retired, then, you know, your things that you're playing with, because you're all passive income, are your assets protected? Are they safe? Because if they're vulnerable, you know, you're risking your quality of life when they go down. So you have to get safer. And, you know, also getting creative about reducing your basic needs. You can have a lot more fun then.
Yeah, you know, it's amazing. I used to be a money manager, as I said. I know what it's like to have, as you mentioned earlier, from some of the investment bankers or what have you. Their sense of survival lifestyle is a pretty high overhead on a monthly basis.
Oh, yeah.
And I know what it's like to have that kind of inherent need somehow that I thought I had.
Yeah.
And what I'm noticing is, especially as I grow in consciousness and find so many great ways to have fun that are specifically not tethered to my net worth or how much money I made on a particular day, I'm finding my needs are less. So that all of a sudden that survival budget you're talking about, or that 50%, it's like, boom, it comes way down.
Yeah.
And with that, I just notice a sense of greater freedom.
Yes.
And freedom from worry, and much more fun and enjoyment of life.
A whole lot more fun.
Let's talk about our buying power and our purchasing power. I was impressed with something I read about the fact that you think that I mean, you say that that when we purchase something from a salesperson, that the bottom line is their bottom line, right? It's not our bottom line. So that we have to be really smart when we're purchasing items, and especially big ticket items like a car, for example. Would you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, and I think this is a big piece of the puzzle too, is that every time we walk out the door, something is sold to us. If we want a house, it's sold by someone who is going to make more money themselves if they sell you a bigger house, a car, shoes even. I went to go get waxed, and the woman tried to sell me to wax my nostrils. I'm not even kidding. Or, you know, it's like, I know that they were...
That's an upsell.
I'm sure it was. So it's just crazy. So, you know, and she was trying to say it was healthier, and I'm like, I don't think you're a doctor, you know, but and so they are trained to do this, to upsell you now. That's a big piece of everything is the upsell, clothing, all of it. So that's why the Thrive budget is really important today, and very important for college students to get, because the minute they hit campus, they get a credit card, and they're just like, woohoo. I know my first credit card, I was off to Greece in like a matter of 20 seconds, I think. Pretty fast. I think I got it, and I booked my flight, like, just like that, you know. So knowing the Thrive budget can keep you out of trouble. Otherwise, you know, you're going to be out there and you are really, it's like a Shark Tank out there.
Well, everybody's looking for something, right? There are so many of them are looking to say, what can I sell? What can I make?
Yeah.
And just keep it going and keep it going. You know, I was kind of curious before. I kind of tried to reel you in a little bit on coming out with a stock pick.
Oh, you did.
I guess I was a little subtle with that. So now, you know, no more subtlety. Come right out. So what do you like for 2014?
In 2014, I'm actually liking a lot of different countries. What I think, look, to me, the United States is fabulous. We're the most free country in the world. Well, not the most free country in the world, but one of the most free countries in the world. And people have a lot of opportunities here to do things. But we are heavily indebted. So I'm not out of the US markets, but I am an end person. So I've added in Australian small caps. I've added in Chile. I've added in Indonesia because a lot of our factories are going into Indonesia as well. I've also added in a little bit of gold in case we have a weakness in the economy, we might get a Fitch downgrade. Again, these are slices. When we talk about, you know, adding in these things, the most important thing in your nest egg is keep a percent equal to your age safe. And then know what safe is, and then the other side, I slice it into 10 slices. So 4 hots, and then small, medium, large value growth.
Okay.
So when you're investing in another country, you're investing in a particular commodity, are you not?
Actually, they have many different funds now. So you could get a Chilean fund that has a lot of banks and infrastructure, or you could get one that's got more materials, that's got, in fact, a lot of lithium for the new electric cars and for the lithium-ion batteries. And
so is that how you're looking at it in terms of bringing consciousness into your investing, to taking a look at what the latest technologies are that can help to improve our quality of life?
Yes.
And I heard you mention earlier, even ultimately there'll be a substitute for gasoline, which could be lithium-ion batteries, among other things, in terms of energy sources.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that really is the direction that you're looking at?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you bought an electric car right now, depending on which one, you could get a tax write-off for it. You reduce your gasoline bill. For a lot of people, that's in the thousands a month. And you know, that could pay off whatever premium you're paying on the car. And there are a lot of places where you can even do your electricity for free. So yeah, I'm here. My next car, I also believe that part of it is not being, you know, over consuming everything. So I've actually had the same car for 11 years. It gets great gas mileage, and I love my car. Love, love, love it. But most of my commuting is done from, you know, my kitchen to my office.
So
I do more flying than I do driving.
I was going to say, your kitchen to your office, you probably get good mileage.
My feet give me very good mileage.
So let's talk a little bit about someone who is really emotionally connected to their money, who's more emotionally they're dealing with fear, they're dealing with doubt, they're dealing with survival. Their emotions are tied up in that whole conversation. So how can they extricate themselves from that to move to a place where they can be empowered, you know, to make a difference? And I know you spoke about, you know, reducing the you know, the basic budget, but how about, can a person who's emotionally tied to their finances really find their way out?
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard, right? It's because it's a shift. This is a shift in consciousness. So it requires, and I think that's the piece of the puzzle that people need to know, is that the biggest word in the law of attraction is action. You have to have the right action plan, but you also have to be willing to take the action, and that's the emotional piece. Mm-hmm. So the goddess Sophia's mantra is, I am, I have, I can. And whenever my fear, and we all have had it, I used to send my son with his dad because I would be, you know, like all the bills, it was emotional. Mm-hmm. You know, I was like, what do I do, burn them? I mean, what am I going to do with all this? Right. And it was very, very emotional. So I understand. We work on that at the retreat at night, the way we do it, in addition to Sophia's mantra. We have fun. So that during the day at the retreats, we're learning the system. And at night, I wear people out in the day so they can't even think another second. And then at night, we go have fun. And I tell them, the reason I'm doing this is we are creating new synapse pathways in your brain that I am flooding with endorphins so that they are going to be expansive and open up. And once you start associating money with fun, and if you are seeing my face, this is not a fabricated smile. That's when you're in the sweet spot, and you can get there, but it's a combination of rethinking and different actions.
I know people can find you on your website,
Yeah.
but talk about your retreats for a moment. When are they, so people in our audience here can start to take note?
Okay, so definitely come and visit me at nataliepace.com. And our next retreat is the Valentine's retreat. So love yourself or bring someone you love, and you can get information at nataliepace.com. And then we're having one, that's in Santa Monica, the beautiful beach town. I always do them on the beach so we can play the billionaire game on the beach. In Florida, May 31st in Cocoa Beach, which I love because we do a billionaire activity as well. So in Santa Monica, our billionaire activity is the Getty Center, and in Cocoa Beach, it's NASA, which I love. So partnerships that people have to take on together, and thank you for taking on this partnership for this show.
Yeah.
So we can start co-creating.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's about co-creation. Well, we're coming to the end of our interview segment, so I always like to ask our guests for a pearl of wisdom. If you had something that kind of was the essence of what you shared today,
Yeah.
what would you want to say to our audience, Natalie?
Every cent you own and every moment you spend is always an investment.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
So we're now moving on to one of our favorite segments, and that's Stu's Views. Now,
Yes.
Stu, shine your light, darling.
All right, here we go. Here is this. Where am I here? Which camera are we going to here? I'm going over here today. Okay, I'm going over here today. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm here. Anyway, here's Stu's Views, okay? Maybe you've seen the movie Wolf of Wall Street. And, you know, I used to be a money manager myself during the same era. I was a little bit more of like a chihuahua compared to the wolf. But I want to share with you, I want you to come back in time with me, back to when I was a money manager, and we were managing a fairly, you know, hefty amount of money. And this was the go-go days where there were a lot of takeovers and a lot of mergers. And one of the quickest ways to make a lot of money at that time was to have a correct bet on a stock that would be bought out and taken over by another company. And one of the industries that was being consolidated at the time was the film industry. And MCA was a company with Universal Studios. They had a large video library. And we had a lot of options, stock options. I don't want to bore you with details, but bottom line is we owned the equivalent of, oh, I don't know, a few 100,000 shares. Okay, so it was a lot of it. And there was this guy on TV who was a rumor monger on CNBC or whatever. His name was Dan Dorfman. And he used to move stocks. He used to come on during lunchtime. And whatever he said, oh, this is the latest rumor. You know, amazingly, these stocks started popping like that. And lo and behold, one day, God bless him, he said, MCA, I hear it's going to be bought out and it's going to be for beaucoup bucks. And sure enough, our stocks, and this was way back when stocks were traded in fractions. Yes, eighths and quarters and not in decimals. So all of a sudden, rather than trading in eighths, this was trading half a point, 2 points, 3 points, 4 points, 5 points, 6 points, up 7 points in a span of like a minute. And my senior manager, the boss of our entire fund, yells out, "This is better than sex!" And I looked at him like, what? This is good, but this is not better than sex. But it started to get me thinking now, consciously, what is this all about? One, what is so great about sex, which of course we all know? It's a feeling that is truly unlike any other. It's amazing, it's extraordinary, and it's one of the greatest blessings of life is to be able to partake in. And then I started to look at it from my limited consciousness at the moment and say, what would it be for me? What would it be that is greater than sex? And I noticed that it goes directly towards appreciation. Appreciation. Because I know what it's like to have a lot of money. God bless, thank you very much. I know what it's like to lose a lot of money. Not so much fun. Not so much fun. But it's the appreciation of the moment, which, oh, by the way, you look up appreciation in a dictionary, it's not just about capital appreciation. It's about an increase in value. And when we appreciate life itself, now let's call it out, let's use the 4-letter word, and it's not debt, it's love. And how we can really love life, and that really is ultimately what the money is for. Just maybe that is what we're really here for. And that could make life better than sex, is to really appreciate what we have and what this world has to offer, because it really is, by many measures, a miracle that any of us exist anyway. So I'm inviting you today to go outside and do it during daylight, because there's a thing out there that's been out there since the beginning of time, and it's called the sun. And somehow it provides for our existence, no matter how miserable we are, no matter how beautiful we are, no matter what good or even evil we could possibly do in a given moment. And it still provides for our existence. So I'm inviting you to go back to your roots on this one and just go outside, take a look at the sun. Don't stare directly in it, boys and girls, but just acknowledge and just say thank you so much for our existence and so much for the opportunity for the growth that we have so that we can love life and enjoy wealth in so many different ways. And so that's it for today. And for now, we go right back to Patricia, who's going to wind up with another riveting edition of, you are going to rivet us, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Thank you, of Quantum Quotes.
Okay. So I am just delighted to share this quote with you today. In fact, it's been on my outgoing message on my landline for several months now. And it's from one of my very favorite human beings, and that's Maya Angelou. And I think it's so appropriate for today's show. In fact, we did another show on money. It was now early on in season 1. And I said, God, I should have chosen that Maya Angelou quote. But you know what? It wasn't appropriate for that show compared to this. So here's the quote. I have to read it. You can only be truly accomplished doing something you love. Don't make money your goal. Do what you love and do it so well that people can't take their eyes off of you. That is a beautiful quote. That touched me so deeply. And that actually came from a group of women that I work with in LA that are also aligned with Natalie Pace, and they're called the Fortunista Group. And when that quote was sent to me, I said, this is really what I want, because I love what I do. And when we love what we do, we're passionate about it, we're loving ourselves, we're making a difference in our lives. We're doing our soul's work, our purpose. And I think all of us want to be aligned with our purpose in life, with our soul's work. I love what I do, not only as a spiritual counselor, but also doing the show with Stu and this awesome crew that we have, and having these wonderful guests like Natalie Pace here with us today. So you may say, well, yeah, I don't have a clue about what my soul's work is. I don't know what it is or how it could even happen. Well, guess what? Good news. You don't have to know what it is, and you don't have to know how it's going to happen. But you do have to know one thing. You need to know all of the qualities that you're looking for in a career that you would call your soul's work. So all you need to do is speak those qualities into creation. And I'm going to give you an example of that, because I'd really like you to try this. You can say something like this, and I'll give you mine. I, Patricia, in co-creation with the universe of unlimited potential. So what am I doing? I'm acknowledging that I have this relationship with the field, with the quantum field. All right? So I, Patricia, in co-creation with the universe of unlimited potential, am now fully self-expressed in my soul's work, my purpose, in a career that is imbued with the essence qualities of contribution, fulfillment, fun, joy, financial abundance and reward, prosperity, collaboration, cooperation, great communication, joy, peace, and love. So that's just right off the top of my head, just essence qualities that for me are very important. So if you were to take this statement and put in your name and acknowledge the universe working with you in co-creation and put that statement out into the field, then I promise you that your soul's work will show up in time and your life will change. So I want to leave you with that possibility and that invitation, and I'm going to read the quote again. I'm going to recite the quote again. You can only become truly accomplished doing what you love. Don't make money your goal. Do what you love and do it so well that people can't take their eyes off of you. So here we go. All right, well, this was a wonderful show.
As usual.
As usual.
Patricia, that's a beautiful quote.
Thank you
it
for
really is.
Thank you for your participation.
And yours as well.
Yeah.
And shall we bid everybody adieu?
Yes, so we shall. Okay, great.
So long.
So long.
Yes, until we meet again. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And until next time.
Well, we all
come
connect
on.
up here.
Okay,
Yes,
we'll all
let's
get together.
Let's all
All
connect
right.
up here. Okay.
So, shall I?
Yes.
Okay.
So until we meet again, everyone, as we move into
Yes.
this new year, let's just get conscious now.
Welcome to State and Fig, located in historic La Arcata Plaza in downtown Santa Barbara.
Our menu focuses on products that are raised in the state of California, inspired by the flavors of the Riviera.
And we are proud to be sponsoring this program.
Hello, I'm Twyla Kim. I've been an artist and hairstylist in Santa Barbara for 20 years. I personalize color, design, and precision haircuts for each individual at Sequel Salon in Montecito. I'm happy to be sponsoring Get Conscious Now.
I'm attorney Gregory Lowe. I will prepare your trust, bankruptcy, divorce, conservatorship, probate, evictions. All of this I can do at an affordable price and with caring. Thank you very much.
When I was growing up as a kid, I used to go around with him and watch him.
My mother and I both worked at Lowry Field.
To keep on doing this together.